This is a production from the Takedown Sports. What's up, y'all? T-Brown31 here, as always, with Jaboc the Great. This is another episode of The Last Word. So this episode is going to be formatted a little bit differently than usual. Last week, we had our draft preview. This week, we're going to have our draft recap. Once again, we're mainly focusing on the first round, specifically the first 15 picks. For the first 10 minutes or so, you'll hear our reactions from some of the top picks. Then we'll get more insight into our reactions and discuss how the draft will affect the NFL going forward. So without further ado, here are our draft night reactions. It's going to be Mac Jones. Whoa!
I'll be damned.
Oh my God.
I'll be damned. Wow.
Yo.
I didn't expect that one. Mac Jones about to fall.
Yo. I was just thinking because I'm like, Trey Lance was coming up too, bro. Wow. So this is interesting.
Yeah, I don't know if, I think Mac Jones is going to be picked pretty late now because I don't think anyone else is going to want to go for that.
Yeah, exactly. So that's
those other
interesting.
teams, I think Justin Fields looks a little better too.
Yeah. Wow.
That's crazy, actually.
I was about to say, because I literally said it's going to be Mac, but they said Trey Lance. It's like, all right.
He literally said, here comes Mac Jones.
Wow.
All right, now as a Panthers fan, I'm excited to see what the Falcons pick because I want them to leave Kyle Pitts open for us, but I don't think they will.
There you go.
Oh, man.
Best offense in the league right there, or one of the best.
Yeah. Man. All right, we as the Panthers, we better take Patrick Surtain now.
Yeah. Yeah, because he should still be there. I mean, there's no reason he wouldn't be. So Atlanta's going to have a top three offense with zero defense.
Man, we got to play this Atlanta team and the Bucs and the Saints.
Yep.
Oh, nah.
Yeah, so some verified dude on Twitter tweeted out like 2 minutes ago.
The Bengals got to retire from football, bro. Yeah, there's no point giving him a wide receiver if the man can't, stay still for a second, bro.
I guess they figured they can build their offensive line later on, you know.
Let's see what top people from LSU they take next year.
There you go.
All right, there you go. Okay, so he stayed home too. His dad is a big dude, bro. That's going to help him out a lot, though.
Yep. Okay, so who's left now? So we got Justin Fields still there, Surtain.
That's something I didn't consider. We could end up taking Fields. I know we've talked about that, but I just kind of still forgot it could happen.
Yeah. That's interesting.
Okay.
Well, then Surtain's definitely going to Dallas then.
Yeah. I would have rather had Surtain, but I'll take Corn. I mean, that's good.
Yeah, I mean, they're both great. So, I mean, it was just kind of more of a style kind of thing.
Yeah. Either way, our defense is looking really good.
At least we got a corner.
Yeah.
Wow. Wow.
Whoa.
So who's Dallas getting now? Oh, this is interesting.
And now Dallas probably gonna take a little bit longer to pick now.
Yeah. I didn't even think for a second he was going to Denver.
No, I didn't know.
Man, that girl dragged him out like real quick, bro. Give him 2 seconds to hug his family. Like, golly.
I guess we do see them a little bit after the call and everything. So like, they're just gonna keep showing Devontae Smith, huh? Wow, what is Dallas gonna do now? I swear, if Dallas drafts like Smith or something, and does the wide receiver thing,
He got 5 receivers.
Whoa!
Trade
to who?
to
To the Eagles.
Skip's gonna lose it. We're Skip.
What?
All
right, Skip, how you feeling?
Who are the Eagles picking? They can get Smith.
Okay, he said I won't be shocked if Jerry trades back. Who are the Eagles going to pick there, though?
So Dallas saw Sertan gone. He's like, oh, well, gone. Bye. Yep, there you go.
Yep. All right. There he goes. I like that pick.
Another trade. Chicago gets the pick at 11. He might be taking a QB.
They might actually. This could be Fields.
Yeah, I mean, that's a pretty big jump.
Yeah.
There you go.
There we go. That's the great pick.
Bears fans are going to burn down Chicago if they didn't get.
That's a great pick. That's not where I thought he'd be going, but I'm glad. I think he'll do good there.
Yeah, because they were at 20, so I hadn't even considered them at all.
Yeah.
All right, y'all. So you guys just heard our reactions to some of the top picks in the draft. So now we'll go ahead and get straight into the insight with the first pick of the NFL draft. We had
the Jacksonville Jaguars select Trevor Lawrence. This one was, of course, no surprise. This has been pretty much presumed to be what was going to happen since Trevor's freshman year, but it is now official. Clemson University's first number 1 overall pick, and it was no shock at all.
Yeah, I mean, this is probably one of the easiest draft picks to make in draft history right here. I mean, the guy came in his freshman year, won the national championship, killed Alabama, not even close. And then after that, we went 2 straight seasons without losing a game in the regular season. Obviously, they lost the championship last year, and then they didn't make it to the championship this year. But regardless, like, it's not even close. Trevor Lawrence should have gone number 1, period. Simple as that. Let's move on.
So, of course, from there, we have with the second pick, the New York Jets, and they selected Zach Wilson, which wasn't much of a surprise. It was probably not the best pick for them, but I think Zach Wilson will definitely work as long as they make the right moves to kind of help him out, which I think they did even within this draft.
Yeah, so like you said, you weren't sure that was the best pick. As far as him being the second best player in the draft, obviously not being the second best quarterback, I don't think so either. But I think the pick was more of a case of the Jets fell in love with Zach Wilson. He is a quarterback. He is one of the best quarterbacks in the draft, obviously. So that's what they needed, that they got Sam out of there and sent him to Carolina. So they got their guy pretty much, and they have some picks later on that'll definitely help out Zach. So if they just get him some weapons, get him some guys on the offensive line that can protect him and get the defense, just might be good in about 5 years.
Yeah, I think 5 years is a decent timetable because, I mean, you got to get the guy some people to throw to. You've got to get him some people that will keep him alive. But the offense isn't the only thing in a football game. So the Jets also got to make sure their defense isn't just allowing everyone to run right to the end zone for free. And so, yeah, that takes, a lot of free agent signing, a lot of drafting. But 5 years is probably a good timetable for them to be not laughable on the schedule.
Yeah, you won't have to really worry about Greg Williams pulling that nonsense anymore that he did near the end of the season. So bring in some guys that can help Zach Wilson, like you said, help him on defense. Maybe the Jets might actually finally be something. It's been 10 years since they made the playoffs. They went to back-to-back AFC championships, of course, under Rex Ryan and Mark Sanchez. Maybe getting Zach Wilson and a new head coach will finally be the change that will catapult them back to at least being decent.
Yeah, that's what I would say. At least decent. Maybe not, or maybe a playoff team, but not like a Super Bowl team. But that's still improvement. But from there, we moved to the first big shock of the draft, and this was a very pleasant surprise as the 49ers selected quarterback Trey Lance.
Yeah, so you heard it in the clip. I said, yo, Mac Jones is about to get picked. It's definitely going to be Mac Jones. I didn't think it would be anybody else. Now, Trey Lance was speculated, of course, it was going to be either between Mac and himself. But I thought, like, okay, they got Mac. I was clearly wrong.
I thought the same thing. I mean, the media kept hyping Mac up, and you think a lot of times that coaches and stuff like that are going to end up, giving into that media pressure and thinking, all right, well, maybe this is the guy. But Kyle Shanahan most likely thinks that Trey Lance will be ready for the NFL, starting level before Mac Jones. I'm assuming, of course, he'll come in behind Jimmy for maybe a year or half a year to be coached up and developed into what Shanahan wants him to be. But I think it's definitely the better pick over Mac Jones.
I wonder what, like you said, like she's probably going to sit behind Jimmy G for about a year or so. But what if Jimmy G, leads them to like another 13 and, well, it's not going to be 13-3 now, 17 games, but they win 13 games, 12 games, something like that. Then I guess that just raises Jimmy G's value because you trade up to take a QB at number 3, then he's obviously going to be the future. But I guess it makes things a little bit more difficult if Jimmy G like has the best season of his career, like goes to a Pro Bowl or something like that.
Yeah, that's actually really interesting. I think if that happens, then I would almost say they'd have to keep him for at least another year. But at the same time, it does up his value if they want to flip him for something. If say they need an extra push and they think Trey Lance is ready to play like Jimmy did, then they can use Jimmy's newfound value to get that extra push they need. But if that does happen, that's going to put them in quite the predicament because then you've got a guy who just took you to a pretty great season, and you don't usually just ship a guy like that off.
Yeah, and then the flip side of that is, though, they did go to the Super Bowl not too long ago after winning 13 games. But a lot of people consider that, Jimmy was kind of just along for the ride. It was the defense, George Kittle, the running backs, blah, blah, blah. And it was just Jimmy being a game manager there. So if that kind of happens again, then I can see them saying, okay, Jimmy, you led us to these 13 wins or so, but you're not the one that's really doing it. It's the rest of the team. Then I can see, all right, Trey Lance coming in and taking them to a whole nother level where they might actually win a Super Bowl this time around.
Yeah, I agree. I think if they reach that same level of success and it's not because of Jimmy's direct effort, then he's out for sure. But if it's because of his willpower and his playing ability, then that puts the 49ers in a situation for sure.
Yep.
So with the fourth pick, and this one hurt me as a Panthers fan, but I understand it. The Atlanta Falcons select tight end Kyle Pitts, which was an amazing pick, and it just boosted them to having one of the better offenses in the league. Not that theirs wasn't already great, but take a great offense, add a great tight end, you make a better offense for sure.
Yeah, I mean, now you've got Julio Jones, who there's no way they can trade Julio. I don't want to hear any of that nonsense. Number one, you've got Calvin Ridley, and you've got Kyle Pitts. So as your 3 top offensive weapons, and then Matt Ryan can still throw the ball. He's not a scrub. So you have a great offense. Defensively, you have some problems.
So the Falcons' problem last year, for anybody who maybe missed what happened to the Falcons all year, they would start off with these huge leads because you got an offense that comes out, you set the pace, and you kind of scare people. But then your defense can't keep up with your offense, and all of a sudden the opposing offense starts firing up, and so does their defense, and you have the Falcons blowing 10, 20-point leads every other week, and that's why they ended up with the worst record and the NFC South, and that's got to stop. So, I mean, Kyle Pitts is definitely a great pick. It's going to really, really boost up their offense, but they've got to work on defense.
Yeah, I mean, there were games last year just from watching the Falcons since they're on. If the Panthers aren't on, then we pretty much get Falcons games all the time. Just from watching them, it's just frustrating to see the team because there's no reason they should be losing so many games. I mean, they had the Chiefs. They held the Chiefs to 17 points last year and still lost. The one game where you decide to really play some defense, you end up losing. So they definitely need to regroup this year, so to speak. Dan Quinn is gone. So maybe that might help. But yeah, adding Kyle Pitts is going to be a complete game changer there.
Yeah, I mean, once Dan Quinn was out last year, they started improving at least a little bit all around. So I think he was kind of part of the issue. So maybe with Kyle Pitts and the rest of the pieces they added in this draft, the Falcons will be a little more formidable consistently throughout a whole game, not just for the first 2 quarters.
Yeah.
And so we moved to the 5th pick, which was the Bengals. And this is one that I thought would have been an obvious pick, but they tricked me. And I don't think it was the best pick. I know Terrence likes this pick a little more than I do, but they took wide receiver Jamar Chase. I thought they would have taken Penei Sewell to, keep Joe Burrow from having his leg snap. But they got Jamar Chase for the chemistry with Joe Burrow. And I mean, he's a great wide receiver. So it's not a terrible pick by any means. But I don't think they filled their top need, so to say, with such a high pick.
But it's kind of one of those things where it's like an either or. Like I personally would have drafted the O lineman, but I'm not mad at them that they drafted Jamar Chase. Like you said, the LSU chemistry, they won the title together, Joe Burrow and Chase. So bringing that kind of duo back together, it's definitely going to do a lot for the offense. Now that AJ Green is, officially gone, he had been kind of gone anyway the past few years because of injuries and everything like that. So if they just build their offensive line, I mean, it's not like complete garbage like the Texans offensive line was back when they first came into the league and got David Carr killed. But, if they just work on the offensive line, continue giving Joe Burrow weapons, and obviously have to build a defense. Because obviously if you're not going to be able to stop Lamar, Baker Mayfield, or whatever the Steelers have going on up there right now, then it doesn't really matter.
Yeah, and that's why I think like just the talent of Jamar Chase and then filling that AJ Green hole, you can't say this is a bad pick, right? Like you can say they need the O lineman, but there's other ways to get an O lineman. Penei Sewell was a great pick, but it's not like he's God or something. There's plenty of O linemen that will fill the hole and keep Joe Burrow safe. And then while they're keeping him safe, he can now throw it to a guaranteed star at wide receiver, which is always great. But I also agree, you've got to have a defense that can stop the rest of the offenses in that division. Those are some really, really, really talented offenses, and you can't just allow them to run all over you twice per season.
Yeah, I mean, exactly the point I was about to make is like the Bengals have pretty much just been an easy game for the past few years. I mean, it's kind of like with the Patriots in New England, with the AFC East for all those years. He's like, heck, you got 6 easy games. Maybe you'll lose 1 or 2 of them, but you got the flip side here where you got 3 teams in the division just beating up on one and you don't have to worry about it. Maybe the Bengals can finally get back to at least making the playoffs and losing,
Yeah, I mean that's better than just straight up not making it at all or anything. Like last year they were the only team in their division to not make the playoffs, and that sucks when that happens, It's got to feel bad.
Yep. And now we're going to go ahead and move on to another reunion between QB and receiver, with Jalen Waddle being selected number 6 by the Miami Dolphins.
And so this is, of course, a finesse pick because the Dolphins do not have the 6th pick due to a bad record. They were 10-6 last year, but they managed to snag a super, super good wide receiver and reunite him with one of his old quarterback. And I mean, I think the Dolphins' offense wasn't terrible last year by any means, and adding Jalen Waddle is a super boost, if anything.
Yeah, and I'm glad they put all the noise about maybe they should move on from Tua. I'm like, come on, man, give the man a chance. Like you said, they went 10-6. Obviously, Fitzmagic had a hand in that, of course. But it's not like they missed the playoffs by a wide margin. I mean, with this fact that they had 7 seeds last year, If they had won one more game for some other situations that had gone differently, they could have just as easily had a 6 or 7 seed. They probably would have lost first round, but considering the fact that they were tanking for Tua just the year before, Dolphins are going to definitely be good. So I'm really happy for Flores over there. He's been doing a great job trying to turn this team around. So getting Jalen Waddle, connecting with Tua again, it's going to be good for them.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely see them getting about the same record, if not better, in this coming year. Of course, they're in a tough division, and it's not a division that used to be tough. So that's very entertaining as a football fan to see that division be as competitive as it is now. And I think Jalen Waddle is going to add a whole lot of fire to that competition.
Yep, agree there.
So, moving over to the 7th pick, we have the Lions seeing their opening and grabbing it as they got Penei Sewell. Of course, a lot of people expected him to go at 5. He was available at 7, and the Lions grabbed him. And the Lions need everything, so Penei Sewell is a perfect pick for them. A lot of people would be, but I think Penei Sewell is definitely a good route to take.
Yeah, I'm going to give the Lions credit for making a smart pick here, but at the same time, it was pretty much the obvious pick, like you said, because he could have easily gone to Cincinnati. Now, where Jamar Chase would have gone, I guess he would have fallen, quote unquote, fallen to 6, maybe. But regardless, getting Penei Sewell is good for Detroit. You can start building up that O line for, I guess, your future star QB, Jared Goff. I'm not really sure how they feel about him over there. Now, with Jared Goff, I feel like if he has a good team around him, he can do well. But I don't think he's going to be the guy that he's not going to be winning you games, but he's not going to lose you games either. To me,
Yeah, the year the Rams went to the Super Bowl, I saw Jared Goff as kind of like a guy who could win you games, and then he went to the Super Bowl and didn't do anything. And since then, he's definitely not been the guy who can win you games. He's like a Jimmy G type quarterback. He kind of just runs the game, but not super like through his own willpower. And now he's with the Lions, of course, and I think that he'll be okay over there. I don't expect him to like have a breakout season in Detroit and carry them to like a contending team, but I do think they'll be decent.
yeah. And then with the Lions, considering their history, I mean, their last playoff win was what? I'm pretty sure it was before the merger. Like even before the first Super Bowl, I think. Now, don't quote me on that. But
I know for sure that we were not alive. So
yeah, I'm gonna look that up because I'm not really sure when they won their last playoff game. I think no, excuse me, they've had one playoff win since the merger, which was in like '91. There, okay.
yeah, so that's
So yeah, they need something to spark this franchise that's been just pathetic for a long time.
yeah. I mean, and maybe Jared Goff for some reason over Stafford is going to be the way it works. Some teams are weird. You take the obvious guy who's better and then take him out and put someone who's a little worse there. And for some reason, he kind of prospers in that environment. So maybe that's what Goff needed. Maybe that's what the Lions needed. And Penei Sewell should definitely help Goff get a little more open and get some good looks out.
Yep.
All right. And so with the 8th pick, our Carolina Panthers select cornerback J.C. Horn from South Carolina. This is a controversial pick among a lot of Panthers fans, but I personally really enjoy it. I think he's got that kind of like dog mentality that our defense could really use, add a little bit of intensity. And then pairing him up with people like Jeremy Chin makes the Carolina defense a pretty tough defense.
Yeah, I mean, I'm glad we're building up our secondary. Some Panthers fans were upset that we didn't get, Justin Fields or Patrick Surtain, but I'm fine with getting J.C. Horn, bringing the Carolina boy from South Carolina up to North Carolina. So, like you said, strengthen our secondary, pairing him with Jeremy Chin. I think we have enough receivers as far as first round talent. I don't think we need to get a receiver. So
No.
some people were saying that, and I'm like, all right, no, we don't need to get a receiver in the first round. We can get some later on, which we did. Obviously, you don't need a running back. O lineman, that would have been nice to have, but with J.C. Horn and Surtain both being there, whichever we could have gotten, we did. So I like the pick.
Yeah, I mean, J.C. Horn was definitely like you can kind of compare him to Surtain like very easily, and I think either one's a great pick. But like I said, Horn's got the mentality that I think will fit us a little better. Other people were also saying that the Panthers should grab Justin Fields. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, like I said, I just don't. If we didn't have Sam, then yeah, of course, sure have Justin Fields. But I'm not saying I think Justin Fields is gonna have a way better career than Sam, but we don't really know. Sam barely got much of an opportunity in New York, being in that organization. Justin hasn't played yet. And if we were to get Justin, obviously Sam Darnold's not going to be our franchise guy because they're both pretty young. Despite being in the league for 3 years already, Sam is still considerably young compared to a lot of his peers at the position. So we would have to get something back for him to then surround Justin Fields with some weapons, at least as far as like defensively, So I just don't see the point of it at that spot. Like if we didn't have Sam Darnold, okay, but at that point, just get the cornerback, one of the two top guys, and be done with it.
Yeah, I completely agree. Having already acquired Sam Darnold and then already having traded away Teddy as well, the right pick there is not a quarterback because then you just kind of reset yourself like the third time. And you don't want to do that. So I think we definitely made the better pick.
Yeah.
And then from there, we moved to pick number 9, the Denver Broncos, which were kind of a wild card spot. They needed a lot of stuff. I wasn't sure what they would take. I almost thought they might take Justin Fields, but they surprised me for sure by taking Pat Surtain. They're the ones who got him, and I did not see that coming at all, but I think it's a great pick for them.
Yeah, I think it's definitely a great pick. Obviously, since these two teams met in the Super Bowl back in 2016, they've not been very successful. The Panthers have made one playoff appearance. The Broncos have not made a single one. They've had a combination of just bad management, especially surrounding who the QB is going to be. We've gone through Trevor Siemian, Paxton Lynch, Joe Flacco. Now we're at Drew Lock and maybe Teddy Bridgewater, who we just traded to them. At least we've, got something out of that trade, I guess. But as far as the Broncos go with Surtain, it's a great pickup. He's going to improve that defense a lot. You got a star corner to at least help them do something. Now, I thought they could have taken Justin Fields, but maybe they have confidence in Drew Lock. I don't know. Obviously, I really don't think Teddy's going to be the guy. I think that's just he's going to be a strong backup, but he's not going to be the starter. I don't think. So maybe they really like Drew Lock. If they don't, then they're probably going to be picking at the top of the draft next year and getting a QB this time around.
Yeah, I see Teddy as kind of like a wise man pick. Like they bring him in to kind of train up Drew Lock, so to say. Now, I am not an NFL coach or anything like that. I would say that I like Justin Fields more than Drew Lock, and I think most everyone would agree with me. But maybe they see something in Drew Lock that they can try to develop and bring out. And like I said, getting Teddy Bridgewater may be the way to go because that helps kind of get a really experienced veteran who's got some good years under him to train up Drew Lock and make him not a laughable quarterback. And that's something the Broncos need. But I agree, if this doesn't work out with Drew Lock and Teddy Bridgewater, then the Broncos will probably be in the top 10 again next year. And I can guarantee they'll be taking a quarterback that time.
Yeah.
But their pick this year, of course, with grabbing Pat Surtain, it sent the NFC East scrambling because it particularly sent Dallas scrambling. And so with the 10th pick, we have the Eagles after trading with their division rival, the Cowboys, and they move up to 10. And they select wide receiver Devontae Smith from Alabama.
Yeah, so this is a great pickup. The Eagles needed good wide receivers. That's a problem that they've been having since the Super Bowl run. Just lack of quality wide receivers, whether they've been dropping passes or just not been available. So getting Jalen Hurts, a great weapon, a guy who just won the Heisman, is going to be great for him. I guess Carson Wentz probably wishes he would have had Devontae Smith, but I think he'll be set down there in Indy, so I think he'll be fine with that. But like you said, this kind of sent the NFC East into a whirlwind with that pick with Patrick Surtain at 9 by the Broncos because Eagles traded up 2 spots. The Dallas Cowboys traded back 2 spots. They end up taking Michael Parsons, which we'll get to in a minute. And then up next, we have a pick with another trade with the Chicago Bears. Ended up trading up with the Giants to select Justin Fields.
Yeah, I mean, this one I consider the pick of the first round. I mean, of course, that's not in the top 10 or anything like that. But I think being able to trade up from 20 to 11 and snag Justin Fields was probably like the best thing to happen for the Chicago Bears, and a very, very long time. Now, they can't just draft Justin and walk away. They've got to do other things, give him people to throw to, protect him, give him a defense. The Bears weren't an awful team last year. They're just super inconsistent. So Justin Fields may be a good kind of lock to the consistency that they've been looking for.
Yeah, I mean, last time they made the playoffs, they were a pretty good team. Now, they almost got the Eagles up out of there, but, they had the double doink happen. So they have made the playoffs since. Defense is going to be good. They still have Khalil back, so that's not really much of a worry there. Problem is the offense. Allen Robinson's there, but I don't know how much Allen Robinson wants to be there. And the offense, like, no matter who the quarterback was last year, it just kind of just bleh. It was bad. It's just not good to watch. So Trubisky's out of there, obviously. Andy Dalton, I don't know what they're doing with that.
They've preemptively before the draft named him the starter. You even had him come out in an interview and say, "I chose them because they wanted me to start for them." And I'm sure that now he's probably looking at the fact that they drafted Justin Fields and looking at the Chicago Bears Instagram page, which is only Justin Fields since draft night. Andy Dalton probably realizes that man just arrived to take his job. Now I think Dalton will start, the first few weeks, but he's not their guy for sure. You don't draft a guy like Justin Fields and then rely on Andy Dalton for your team's success.
Yeah, I don't think Andy Dalton is a stupid man. I think he knows he's not going to be a franchise QB for any team going forward. He can be kind of a bridge guy, a very good backup, stopgap starter, if you want to call him that. But he's not going to be a franchise guy. He's going to be playing, or Nick Foles, I guess, whoever wants to be starter over there in Chicago until Justin Fields is ready and they got him a good offense. And maybe the Chicago Bears might finally have their franchise QB.
Yeah, I mean, I think they've got it, but we just got to see how everything plays out. And so now we get to a pick that Terrence, I'd say hinted at, but he quite literally spelled it out. With the 12th pick, the Cowboys picked Micah Parsons. It's someone who they were pretty much going to pick at 10 once Horn and Surtain were gone. But, I guess they figured, all right, we can drop down 2 and still be there, because they probably didn't think that the Eagles would get him. I don't think they thought the Giants would get them, but then, of course, the Giants hopped on out of there. But Micah Parsons is a great addition for Dallas. It's something that actually helps them. It's not a first-round wide receiver, the typical Dallas curse. So I think they made the right pick. Sucks for them that they couldn't get Surtain or Horn, but Parsons is not a bad player at all.
Yeah, I mean, Micah Parsons is going to go insane on the field, but obviously, yeah, they wanted the corner because the secondary is probably the biggest problem on the team entirely. They didn't have any problems on offense last year, at least starting out when they had Dak. The problem was the fact that the defense could not stop anything. I mean, Dak was throwing for like 500 yards a game, exaggerating, of course, but barely. But it didn't matter because the defense could not stop anything. So getting a guy like Michael Parsons that can just terrorize your QB all day, terrorize everybody on the field, seems like a pretty good pick for them, considering that, again, they didn't get J.C. Horn or Patrick Surtain.
Yeah, I mean, I compared the early Dallas of last year to kind of like the Falcons, except where the Falcons would just straight up blow leads. Dak would try to make those games a shootout, but if they didn't have to be a shootout, if the defense could have stopped it, Dallas would have had those games in the bag. So Micah Parsons is definitely going to help Dallas turn those shootouts into just steamrolling if that offense can get going.
Yeah. So now that go ahead.
No, you're good. Go ahead.
Okay, so I was about to say, like, now that Dak has his contract and everything. Zeke is slimming down. You got the receiving core coming back. You're trying to shore up that defense because they went straight defense with the draft, kind of like we did last year. So Dallas is going to be getting TV time regardless every year. It doesn't matter if they're trash or not. So Dallas, specifically Dak, it's going to be on them this year to show up and at least win this anemic division. I mean, there's no excuse for them not to win a division. It's just pathetic. Heck, last year, no matter how bad they played, they were in it until the last game of the season, until they lost to the Giants. And then obviously the Eagles, screwed the Giants in that last game. But I expect the Cowboys to win the division. Washington, they'll be right there, I assume. But the Cowboys ought to win this division this year.
Yeah, I agree. If Dallas doesn't win this division with what they've done now, it's kind of pitiful. I mean, you've got guys like Devontae Smith on the Eagles now, but they still got a little ways to go. Dallas, fully healthy, was already there to be the top of the division, so it should be guaranteed.
Yep.
And that brings us to the 13th pick, which was the Los Angeles Chargers, and they picked up something that will definitely help them with protecting Justin Herbert, and that is Rashawn Slater from Northwestern.
Yeah, so this pretty much seemed like the most common sense pick for the Chargers here. Like, I don't think they would have needed to pick, a wide receiver or a linebacker or anything like that. They needed an offensive lineman. Protect your young QB. That's something that we've said multiple times. You have to get your young quarterback help. Now, he did lose Hunter Henry the offseason with him going to New England, but I don't think it's going to be like the biggest loss in the world. I think Hunter Henry is really good, but it's not like he was Antonio Gates in his prime or anything. So I think just getting Justin Herbert some weapons, he's going to be probably, he could be the best QB in his draft class. We haven't seen much of Burrow, of course, because of the injury, but as it stands now, he could end up as the best in the draft class, just given some talent.
Yeah, I agree. Give him some people to throw to and keep him protected, and he could outshine Joe Burrow. Now that probably seems like a really hard stretch when you compare like how they did in college and everything. But given what Herbert did last year with that Chargers offense, I mean, that's impressive. And so having a guy like Slater there to protect him, really, really big, strong dude that's going to create some disruption as the defense tries to get to Herbert is going to be great.
Yep. So back-to-back offensive linemen going 13 to 14. The New York Jets select Elijah Vera Tucker with the 14th pick, offensive lineman out of USC.
And this goes right back to what we've been saying: protect your young quarterback. And as we said, the Jets needed to protect Zach Wilson, and as soon as they could, they did. So Elijah Vera Tucker, great O lineman. He's going to bring in immediate impact for that O line, and should keep Zach Wilson and mostly a safe space and give him a little bit of a clear headspace to not have to worry about having no one around him to save him.
Yeah, I would say that this is another common sense pick. Now, this pick was from Minnesota originally. I figured Minnesota would take an offensive lineman. They ended up doing that anyway with the pick that they got. So everybody's happy there because you cannot have a repeat of Sam Darnold getting murdered on the field like he had been. So, I want the Jets to do well. Like, I'm not a Jets fan by any stretch of the imagination, but I want them to do well. So getting an offensive lineman to protect Zach Wilson, and then they pick up a wide receiver not too far after. I think they'll be better this year, to say the most.
Yeah, I agree. I'm definitely not a Jets fan in any capacity, but you hate to see a team get steamrolled year after year after year. You want to see them do a little something, and so I think with this pick, they're definitely helping make the push into the right direction to not be, terrible for the 10th year in a row.
Yeah. And now moving into another team in the AFC East, we got the quote-unquote steal of the draft with Mac Jones going to the New England Patriots at number 15.
Let me just go ahead and make it clear. This wasn't a steal, and Mac Jones did not fall anywhere. The only way you could say he fell is he fell right into Belichick's hands, as I'm sure this is what Bill Belichick wanted to happen. But this man was not a top three candidate. And that's not to discredit him, but he wasn't better than Trevor Lawrence, Zach Wilson, Trey Lance, Justin Fields, any of them. And so him landing at 15, I think, is exactly where he should have been. And saying that he was a steal or saying that he fell is foolishness, and I will not have it.
Yeah, I mean, because even then, like, how exactly did he fall? Because let's just go back and analyze this. We knew Trevor Lawrence was going 1. We knew Zach was going 2. The issue was there at number 3. It was either him or Trey Lance going to the 49ers. And then we didn't really figure any of the other teams in between would pick a QB, like for sure, like maybe Denver. There was a little bit of rustling about Atlanta, but I didn't think that. Maybe Detroit, even though they just traded for Jared Goff, but nah. And then we obviously didn't know Chicago was going to trade up there. So, these teams aren't thinking, oh, let's all get a QB. It's like, if you need a QB, get one. But as you can see, teams needed wide receivers, O linemen, and cornerbacks. So I think it's a perfect pick, like you said. Mac Jones belongs at 15 with New England.
Yeah, I mean, I gotta agree with you, and I think you pointed out a great thing about people's mindset about drafts. Just because the quarterbacks make it like the most hype and the most flash of the draft night doesn't mean that every team is there to grab a quarterback. So a lot of those teams that quote unquote Mac fell past, they didn't actually need him, and it would have been not very good to get him. Like the Bengals wouldn't need to take him, the Dolphins wouldn't need to take him, the Eagles wouldn't need to take him, anything like that. And of course, with the Bears trading up, you don't want to trade up and grab a guy who like might be, great, might not be great so quickly, especially when Justin Fields has the hype he has around him. So it's not that Mac Jones is a bad quarterback or anything, but you have to also recognize that he had 2 of his own receivers get drafted before him. So you could kind of argue that he was, I wouldn't want to say being carried, but you could put it that way. Just know that I don't think that Mac Jones was like terrible or anything.
Yeah, I mean, Mac Jones was a Heisman candidate, but at the same time, his receiver was the one that won the trophy. The first time receivers won in 30 years. So obviously that shows how good Devontae Smith was. Now you can say, oh, Jalen Waddle had played the whole season, he wouldn't have won. But either way, he won the trophy. So that doesn't really discredit Mac Jones, but it does show like, hey, he had these great track team, quote unquote, receivers. I see people use that knock against Tua. I'm like, okay, well, Tua, that's used as a knock against him, but no one really mentions that with Mac Jones. So again, we're not knocking him, but it's more just the media hyping him up to be some kind of like football god, which is just a little annoying to me. But I hope Mac Jones does well. I'm pretty sure he will, because it almost seems a little too perfect that he just falls to New England at 15. They've got Cam, but I don't think Cam's going to be the future. I think Cam will be there this season. He'll do well. I don't really see him going back there regardless of if he does well or not. I think Mac Jones will probably come in at least by the end of the season or next year and be that guy for New England. So with that being said, guys, I want to thank you guys for tuning in for this episode. We've had a lot of technical difficulties of trying to get this up, but we finally got it working. We should have everything straightened out for next episode. So this has been T Brown 31 with Jaboc the Great. Like, comment, subscribe. I'll see y'all later.